A single line of code can bring a nation to its knees. This is the story of the hacker who hijacked China's power grid. On a cold December night in 2024, the city of Shanghai plunged unexpectedly into darkness. What began as a routine evening quickly turned into chaos as millions found themselves without power. Just a quick note, please subscribe to the channel to support what we do and help us keep digging into these hidden stories. Now let's dive in further. Across China, the blackout spread like wildfire, affecting not just homes but also hospitals, factories, and government buildings. The nation's critical infrastructure was under attack. Within minutes, emergency protocols were activated. Authorities scrambled to identify the cause, suspecting a technical malfunction or perhaps a natural disaster. But as investigators dug deeper, it became clear this was no accident. The fingerprints of a sophisticated cyber attack were everywhere. For years, China had been at the forefront of cyber defense, building firewalls and monitoring networks. Yet, in 2024, their most vital systems had been breached. The attack was surgical. Power grids, water treatment plants, and transportation networks were targeted in a coordinated strike, leaving experts stunned by the precision. The world watched as China's response unfolded. News outlets reported on the blackout. In Washington, D.C., intelligence officials convened emergency meetings. The possibility of a retaliatory strike loomed large. Cybersecurity analysts quickly identified the attack vector. A previously unknown zero-day vulnerability exploited deep within the operational technology of China's grid. The malware was unlike anything seen before. It moved laterally across networks, bypassing traditional security measures and embedding itself in critical systems. Chinese authorities traced the intrusion back to a cluster of compromised routers, eerily similar to tactics used by the notorious Volt Typhoon group. Volt Typhoon, a state-sponsored hacking collective, had made headlines in the past for infiltrating U.S. infrastructure. Now, it seemed the tables had turned. The attacker's identity remained a mystery. Was this an act of revenge, or a warning shot in a new era of cyber conflict? Forensic teams worked around the clock, analyzing logs and packet captures, searching for clues that might reveal the hacker's origin. The attack bore hallmarks of advanced persistent threat actor stealth, patience, and an intimate knowledge of the grid's architecture. International observers speculated, could this be the work of a rogue insider, or perhaps a foreign intelligence agency seeking to destabilize China? As power was gradually restored, the Chinese government issued a statement condemning the attack and vowing to find those responsible. Rumors swirled on social media. Some claimed the attack was an inside job, orchestrated by dissidents seeking to embarrass the regime. Others pointed fingers at rival nations, citing the ongoing cyber arms race between China, the United States, and Russia. In the weeks that followed, cybersecurity experts pieced together the timeline of the breach. The attacker had gained access months earlier, lurking undetected. They had mapped the grid, identified weak points, and waited for the perfect moment to strike time to coincide with a major political event. The blackout had a chilling effect on the Chinese public, eroding trust in the government's ability to protect its citizens. Businesses suffered massive losses, factories halted production, and financial markets wobbled as uncertainty gripped the nation. Hospitals were forced to rely on backup generators, and emergency services struggled to respond to the surge in incidents caused by the blackout. Internationally, the attack sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity community. If China's grid could be hijacked, no nation was safe. The United Nations convened an emergency session to discuss the implications of cyber warfare on global stability. In the United States, officials recalled recent warnings from the FBI and CISA about the growing threat posed by state-linked hackers targeting critical infrastructure. The parallels were hard to ignore. Just months earlier, Volt Typhoon had infiltrated the U.S. electric grid, dwelling undetected for nearly a year. The U.S. had managed to remove the malware and prevent a major incident, but the Chinese blackout highlighted the fragility of interconnected systems. Cybersecurity firms rushed to offer their expertise, analyzing the attack and sharing threat intelligence with governments and industry partners worldwide. The attackers' methods were dissected in detail. They had exploited outdated software, social engineering, and supply chain vulnerabilities to gain a foothold. The incident prompted a global reckoning. Nations accelerated efforts to secure their grids, investing in advanced detection and response capabilities. Meanwhile, the hunt for the hacker intensified. Digital breadcrumbs led investigators across continents, from Europe to Southeast Asia. Whispers in the cyber underground suggested the involvement of a new player, an individual or group with unprecedented skill and resources. The hackers' motives remained unclear. Was this a test of China's defenses, a demonstration of power, or the opening salvo in a larger campaign? Chinese officials, wary of further escalation, tightened controls over information and launched a sweeping crackdown on suspected insiders. Diplomatic channels buzzed with activity as nations sought to prevent the incident from spiraling into open conflict. Cybersecurity experts warned that the attack marked a turning point. The era of cyber Pearl Harbors was no longer hypothetical, it was reality. Documentaries and news specials chronicled the events, interviewing survivors, experts, and officials who witnessed the blackout firsthand. The story captivated the world. How could a single hacker or a small team bring a superpower to its knees? As investigators closed in, a breakthrough emerged. A fragment of code, left behind in the malware, pointed to a unique signature seen in previous attacks. The signature matched that of a known cyber mercenary, a shadowy figure rumored to operate out of Eastern Europe. This hacker, known only by the alias Spectre, had built a reputation for targeting high-value infrastructure in exchange for cryptocurrency. Spectre's involvement raised new questions. Who had hired them? What was the ultimate goal of the attack? Some theorized that the blackout was intended to send a message to demonstrate the vulnerability of even the most fortified systems. Others believed it was a diversion, masking a larger theft of sensitive data from government and military networks. As the investigation unfolded, Chinese authorities quietly acknowledged the need for international cooperation to track down Spectre. Behind closed doors, intelligence agencies from around the world shared information, hoping to prevent a repeat of the incident. The attack on China's power grid became a case study in cyber warfare, taught in universities and military academies. It forced a rethinking of national security, emphasizing the importance of resilience and rapid response in the face of digital threats. For ordinary citizens, the blackout was a wake-up call. The conveniences of modern life could vanish in an instant, held hostage by unseen adversaries. In the aftermath, China accelerated efforts to modernize its grid, replacing outdated hardware and adopting cutting-edge security protocols. The government launched public awareness campaigns, urging vigilance against phishing and other cyber threats. Internationally, calls grew for a new cyber treaty, establishing norms and red lines for attacks on civilian infrastructure. Yet, as experts warned, the next attack could come from anywhere at any time. The digital battlefield had no borders. The story of the hacker who hijacked China's power grid remains unfinished. Spectre's true identity is still unknown, and the motives behind the attack are shrouded in secrecy. But one lesson is clear. In the age of cyber warfare, the line between peace and chaos is thinner than ever. As the world moves forward, the specter of another blackout lingers, a reminder that the next great conflict may be fought not with bombs, but with bytes. And so the hunt continues, for Spectre, for answers, for a way to secure the world's most vital systems against the invisible threats of tomorrow. This is the new reality, a world where a single hacker can shape the fate of nations, and where the power grid is both lifeline and battlefield. As the world reeled from the implications of the attack, governments everywhere began to question the very foundations of their digital infrastructure. The realization dawned that no firewall, no matter how advanced, could guarantee absolute security. China's blackout became a rallying cry for nations to reassess their own vulnerabilities. Emergency drills, once rare, became routine. Power companies invested heavily in redundancy, seeking to insulate themselves from similar threats. In the boardrooms of global corporations, cybersecurity budgets soared. Chief information security officers were given unprecedented authority, and their warnings were finally heeded by executives. Meanwhile, the Chinese public demanded answers. Citizens, once confident in the state's ability to provide stability, now felt a palpable sense of unease. The blackout had exposed a chink in the armor of a superpower. Journalists dug deep, uncovering stories of everyday people affected by the outage. A mother in Beijing recounted the terror of her child's medical equipment shutting down. Factory workers in Guangzhou described the eerie silence as machines ground to a halt. In rural areas, the impact was even more profound. Farmers lost crops as irrigation systems failed, and small businesses faced bankruptcy after days without power. The blackout became a symbol of the interconnectedness of modern life. It was no longer just a technical issue, it was a social, economic, and political crisis. China's leadership responded with a blend of resolve and introspection. While vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice, they also acknowledged the need for greater transparency and collaboration. Behind the scenes, a new generation of cybersecurity professionals was being trained. Universities launched specialized programs, and young talent was recruited from across the country. Internationally, the hunt for Spectre intensified. Law enforcement agencies pooled resources, sharing intelligence and tracking digital footprints across borders. Cyber insurance, once a niche product, exploded in popularity. Companies scrambled to protect themselves from the financial fallout of potential attacks. The blackout also sparked a philosophical debate about the nature of warfare. Military strategists questioned whether traditional concepts of deterrence applied in the digital realm. Some argued for offensive cyber capabilities, advocating for hackback policies to dissuade would-be attackers. Others warned that escalation could lead to uncontrollable consequences. The attack's psychological impact was profound. People began to question the reliability of technology, and a wave of digital skepticism swept through society. In response, tech companies doubled down on trust. Transparency reports and third-party audits became standard practice as firms sought to reassure customers. The blackout also prompted a surge in innovation. Startups emerged, offering novel solutions for grid security, decentralized energy storage, and real-time anomaly detection. China's government invested in quantum encryption, hoping to leapfrog existing security paradigms and create an unbreakable shield against cyber intrusions. Meanwhile, Spectre's legend grew. In online forums, hackers debated the ethics of targeting civilian infrastructure, while others idolized the mysterious figure as a symbol of digital rebellion. The attack also exposed the fragility of global supply chains. With factories offline, shortages rippled through international markets, affecting everything from electronics to pharmaceuticals. Diplomats worked tirelessly to prevent the incident from sparking a wider conflict. Quiet negotiations led to new agreements on information sharing and mutual assistance during cyber crises. The blackout became a case study at international conferences, where experts dissected the attack's anatomy and debated best practices for prevention and response. In schools, teachers used the event to educate students about cyber hygiene, emphasizing the importance of strong passwords and vigilance against phishing. The incident also inspired artists and filmmakers, who explored the human stories behind the headlines. Documentaries and dramas brought the blackout to life, fostering empathy and understanding. China's rapid recovery became a point of national pride. Engineers worked around the clock to restore power, and communities banded together to support those most affected. Yet the scars remained. For many, the blackout was a formative experience, a reminder of the thin line between order and chaos in a hyper-connected world. As months passed, new details emerged about the attack's sophistication. Analysts discovered that Spectre had used artificial intelligence to automate the spread of malware, adapting in real time to defenders' actions. This revelation sparked a debate about the role of AI in cyber warfare. Should nations restrict the use of autonomous hacking tools or embrace them as the future of defense? The attack also highlighted the importance of international norms. Without clear rules of engagement, the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation loomed large. In response, the United Nations convened a task force to draft guidelines for responsible behavior in cyberspace, seeking to balance security with the free flow of information. The blackout's economic impact lingered for months. Insurance claims soared, and investors demanded greater accountability from companies managing critical infrastructure. Some businesses never recovered. For them, the attack was a stark lesson in the importance of resilience and contingency planning. Meanwhile, the Chinese government launched a sweeping review of its digital supply chain, seeking to root out vulnerabilities and reduce dependence on foreign technology. This effort led to a renaissance in domestic innovation, as Chinese firms raced to develop homegrown solutions for grid security and resilience. The blackout also spurred greater cooperation between the public and private sectors. Information sharing platforms were established, enabling faster detection and response to emerging threats. Internationally, the attack prompted a wave of legislative action. Lawmakers introduced new regulations mandating stronger security standards for critical infrastructure. Civil society groups advocated for greater transparency, arguing that public accountability was essential to building trust in digital systems. The blackout also forced a reevaluation of risk. Insurers, investors, and regulators began to treat cyber threats as systemic, rather than isolated incidents. As the investigation into Spectre continued, new suspects emerged. Some believed the hacker was part of a larger network, operating with the tacit approval of hostile states. Others argued that Spectre was a lone wolf, motivated by ideology rather than profit or geopolitics. Regardless of the truth, the attack underscored the difficulty of attribution in cyberspace. With digital evidence easily manipulated, certainty remained elusive. In the wake of the blackout, China's leaders called for a new era of cyber sovereignty, seeking to assert greater control over the nation's digital borders. This approach sparked controversy, with critics warning that excessive regulation could stifle innovation and restrict the free flow of information. Yet, for many, the lessons of the blackout were clear. Security could no longer be an afterthought. It had to be woven into the fabric of every system, from design to deployment. The attack also prompted a cultural shift. Cybersecurity became a shared responsibility, with individuals, businesses, and governments working together to defend against invisible adversaries. As the world adapted to this new reality, the story of the hacker who hijacked China's power grid became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the power and peril of our digital age. In the end, the blackout was more than a technical failure. It was a test of resilience, a catalyst for change, and a glimpse into the future of conflict. For those who lived through it, the memory of that dark December night would never fade. It was a turning point, a moment when the world awoke to the true stakes of cybersecurity. And as the search for Spectre continued, one question lingered in the minds of leaders and citizens alike. Could it happen again? The answer, as experts warned, was not a matter of if, but when. The digital arms race was only just beginning. Yet, amid the uncertainty, there was hope. The blackout had galvanized a new generation of defenders, united by a shared commitment to securing the world's most vital systems. Their task would not be easy. The threats were evolving, and the stakes had never been higher. But as the lights came back on across China, a new sense of purpose emerged, a determination to build a safer, more resilient digital future. The story of the hacker who hijacked China's power grid would be told for years to come, inspiring vigilance, innovation, and resolve. In the end, the story is not just about technology, but about trust, resilience, and the enduring struggle to stay one step ahead in a world forever changed by code. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more stories they don't want you to know.